Welcome to the Book Tea with V. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Book Tea with V, and I hope you've had an amazing week. You're probably ready for the weekend, as am I. But as always, let's start and let's talk some pop culture. Okay, so I don't need an excuse to talk about Taylor Swift because I could talk about her all day long. She is an artist that I grew up with. She was 15 when she came on the scene. I was only a couple of years younger. And I feel like every single song, every single album just sings to me personally. I feel like she went through all this stuff that we were going through at the same time. I love her. And watching her relationships in the public eye and now seeing her with Travis Kelce, look, I just love love. I just love it. And watching her fall in love on like this big screen of the world, I just love it. And the fact that he came out on stage and did this little skit with her, carried her, which was all a part of the song. There's so much meaning behind it. If he wanted to, he would. Let me just say that. If you are currently wondering, is there someone out there for me? Or if you're wondering if you're being treated well in your relationship, go back to that, how it makes you feel. If he wanted to, he would. It's just, the proof's in the pudding. I could not be more obsessed with this pair. I absolutely love them. And will we see an engagement this year? I feel like we will because I don't know what, she's 34, I think. Not that age matters, but I feel like she'd be ready to settle down at some point. Is he going to be the one? I actually hope so because I think they're just so good together. But the second piece of news, and it really just goes to show that what goes around really does come back around. Justin Timberlake getting arrested for drink driving. I just think it was just I'm still just reeling from it. Like, of course that would happen. I feel like this man, he's on this world tour. He should have, everything that he's ever wanted. The Brynne drama aside, it's so embarrassing for him. But more so, I just feel for his wife, Jessica, formerly known Jessica Biel. How embarrassed do you have to get before you go, you know what? You need to sort yourself out. I probably would have called it quits when he was seen canoodling with a co-star that he was with a few years ago. That would have been it for me. It's just, unfortunately, he's not a vibe. And then we had come on to Bridgerton. And so we've had the final part come out of season 3. It wasn't my favorite. However, there were parts in it that I just cherish. Bridgerton is like coming home. I've said it before. There is something about Bridgerton itself, but also the Bridgerton family. I love them. They can do no wrong. The costumes were sensational. Penelope just looked so stunning. I loved it. I just couldn't connect to them as much. I felt like I was more invested in Francesca and also the Featherington sisters. But as usual, there is massive amounts of controversy with where they're going with it. All I'm upset about is the fact that it's going to take about a year to get another one. Why? The budget's humongous. Surely everyone's free. Not happy. Not happy at all. And also Philippa, the Featherington sister Philippa, when she's at the end and she's like, Ollie, the bugs. I could just listen to that on repeat. I think it's the way that her voice cracks and it's just so childlike and she's saving her sister from embarrassment. It was just so endearing. I loved it. But let's move on and let's get to the book tea of the week. What's the tea? So I'm not sure if you're aware, but Cowles came out with her tropes for the next release in the Sparrow Falls series. And before I get onto that, I will just say I want to live in Sparrow Falls. It's just Fragile Sanctuary was the first book in this series, and the world building, the character building, I just want to know them all. I want to be there. It's one of my favorite books. I just love it. But Delicate Escape is the second one. And these are going to be the tropes. So we've got best friend's brother, toucher and vibe, roommate to lovers. Didn't see that one coming. He falls first. I kind of did that one. Hidden identity, forced proximity, found family. Now this one's going to be about Thea and Shep. If you have read Fragile Sanctuary, I was obsessed with Thea. There was something about her story. She didn't want, anyone knowing where she was. She couldn't be paid in cash for the paid properly for the job she was doing in Sparrow Falls. So she had to get paid in cash. So I was always like, there's a story there. And there is, and we're getting it. And I am so excited. I love Catherine Cowles books. I've got into them. I feel like I've got into them a little bit late, but better late than never, right? So I'm obsessed with them. Okay, so we all love special edition covers. It's just the way of the world. And on the episode that we had with Jill Ramsower, she showed us her Bum Brothers series, one of the books in special edition. It was stunning, but I went on the website and I wasn't prepared for just how beautiful they all were. Do yourself a favor if you loved that series, and even if you haven't read the series, first of all, go and do that. Then go and look at the special edition covers. There is something about them. I don't know what it is, but the artwork, stunning. Beautiful. Okay, so let's move on to what I've been reading. And this week, it was a little slow, but I feel like every single book was a banger. So I started off with Laura Pavlov's Loving Romeo. Laura Pavlov is an author for me. She's an instant buy author. Every single book gets me out of a book slump. And she's just my small town romance go-to. She always has been. She always will be. Loving Romeo was no different. It was just this super quick and easy small town vibe. Good girl, bad boy, delicious. If you haven't read it, go and read it. I'm still yet to read the other two in the series that are out, but it's on my immediate TBR. Oh, I was listening to Butcher and Blackbird by Brynne Weaver. Look, I loved it. It was super fun, super different. But listening to it, I mean, there are parts, the ice cream part, for the love of God, when you listen to a Brynne Weaver book or read, maybe have eaten like an hour before and don't plan to for maybe an hour afterwards. Some of these scenes. And if you know, you know. But my most recent book was Caged by Luna Mason. And this book, you're going to hear me say like this phrase for the next couple of weeks because it's the best way, I think, to describe this book. It was like Quentin Tarantino, mafia romance, but also small town romance with single dad and nanny, all combined to make a baby. It was just spectacular, 5-star. It's one of my top reads of the year. She never disappoints me. The spice is always amazing. It's Luna Mason, of course it's amazing. But I feel like with every book and every plot that she does, it's so different to anything I've ever read. I loved it. If you haven't read it, it's out at the moment. Go and read it. Do yourself a favor and then come back and thank me because it's just chef's kiss. But speaking of dark romance, I have really been getting back into dark college romance. I cannot find enough of them at the moment. So if you have any recommendations, please let me know. But it wasn't so long ago, and I haven't really let go of them either, that I read the series, The Hollow Boys. It stays with me. It was unlike anything I'd read before. It had everything I wanted from a dark college romance. And Monty Jay, I am so excited to say that they are our guest for today. I cannot wait. Monty Jay, it is such a pleasure to have you on the Book Tea with V. I have been waiting a while for this.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. When you reached out, I was like, oh my God, I feel so honored. I love your content. I love your TikTok. So I was like, oh my God, not me blushing. I'm so excited.
I just said the same to you before we got started. I was like, there's just something about you that I fangirl like over. It's, I don't know, the aesthetic that you have, the way that you conduct yourself. I'm all about it.
Oh my God, thank you. I mean, I always think that it's like, I mean, I don't know, I want to say odd, but you know, like people are like, oh my God, I can't, like meeting you is crazy. Like I'm fangirling. And I'm always like, I was playing Call of Duty like last night, like, and I was eating like chips and queso. So like I'm doing like these weird, random, like normal things. And like to be like, oh, people are fangirling. I'm like, I'm just a frog on a log, you know? I'm not really that cool, I promise.
But you are. I mean, like the aesthetic. I mean, I'll get into that in a minute because while I was doing my stalking, which is, you know, my job when it comes to, you know, finding out things, it's just something that really jumped up at me about like the aesthetic that you have. Oh, I just love it. But I always start at the beginning. So I know that from the stalking that you were into writing at a very early age. But I think what I want to know is, did you always know that it was going to be romance?
No, actually, I did not. I don't think that I knew that I wanted to write particularly romance until I think I was a little bit older. I want to say like later high school years.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even after I graduated, I wasn't like really set on romance. I always loved writing. I always loved like painful, make you cry, like hurt you in your chest stories, you know, which aren't always necessarily romance because some of them don't have happily ever after. So like,
Yeah.
Looking for Alaska by John Green, I always thought was such like a, it was like heart wrenching. It really ripped my heart out. And I was like, I would love to write things like something of that, you know, capacity.
Yeah.
But I don't think I figured out that I wanted to write romance until I actually started reading romance. I'm not like a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a prolific romance reader.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I know people who have stories about stealing their mom's bodice rippers like back in the day. That was not me. I unfortunately did not get into romance until a little later in the game, but when I found it, I was like, "Oh, I would love to write stories of like people falling in love and like combine that with the kind of stuff that I like because I think they could work really well together." So I would say, yeah, it was a little later that I figured out romance was a genre for me. But when I found it, I didn't want to leave it. So
And I love your stories. And I think, which, brings me nicely to my next question. I know that you're a massive Stephen King fan.
huge.
And, it's clearly been a huge influence on your reading, but has it also been an influence with your writing? I mean, you do that dark sort of romance. Has that influenced or inspired you in the way that you wrote? I mean, especially Hollow Boys,
Oh, yeah.
with some of those scenes and getting that vibe, I guess, of that darkness.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think that, I mean, Stephen King has inspired like so much of my life, honestly, that I mean, he should start like paying rent for the space he has in my head at this point. But I would say, yeah, he definitely inspired the way that I write along with the way that I read. He has such an immersive pen, the way that he is able to uh create imagery in people's heads. In horror, it's you can't rely on like scary music or like visual impact when you're watching a
Hmm.
scary movie, right? So like when you're watching these scary movies, like the every little sound and creak is supposed to make you like a little bit more
That's
scared. And
so
in
true.
novels, you don't have those things kind of fall back on. So you have to really like pull a reader in for them to be afraid. And he does such an incredible job writing and describing the surroundings. Like I can smell where I'm at and I can feel where I'm at. Like in his novels, they're so immersive. And I just wanted to create books like that. So I think with the Hollow Boys, it helped me a lot because it's very like Ponderosa Springs is a very like creepy, macabre, like ghostly kind of place. And I loved that. I loved that I was able to kind of like incorporate what I've learned from reading Stephen King for so long into like my own work when it comes to like imagery because I wanted readers to be like maybe like a little like not scared but like hair raising moments. Like I think
Yes.
there's a scene in The Blood We Crave Part 1 where Lyra's up in this library tower and it's like creeping and there's like noises and there's somebody watching her. And I always really loved that. So I wanted readers to be like, I want them to feel like cobblestone and the smell of rain and like that kind of thing. So he definitely inspired the way that I write. But I mean, all kinds of horror authors have inspired that. Like Mary Shelley, who wrote Frankenstein, is also another incredible like imagery author. Ray
Hmm.
Bradbury, Bram Stoker, like I think I just pulled like all of the elements I love about horror and like gothic fiction into like my own work. So I would, yeah,
And you've done
long-winded.
it so well because I really do. When you say gothic, and it was eerie, like when I was reading The Hollow Boys, I
Yeah,
really felt those dark elements, but in a very different way, actually, to a lot of other dark romance books
yeah,
that I've read. And I think that's why you know it's doing the rounds. This series, people are loving it, and I can so see why. I really can. But
yeah.
before we get into Hollow Boys, which I know everyone's going to want to hear about,
I love
I was surprised to know that you'd written sports romance and you're a big sports fan.
hockey. Yeah, that's my guy. I'm a big sports person. Hockey's my love. I love hockey. I always tell people. I think that's why I wore that shirt. The shirt today, maybe. I always tell people that I'm like two halves of one whole. I have like two very split I guess like personalities or like aesthetics that may not always like mush together. Like the way that I present myself can be a little like gothic and like dark or whatever, and that's just the kind of style that I like. But on the inside, I'm like a big sports nerd. I love sports. My dad and I played sports all through like high school, and I had the opportunity to play in college. So I have sports has been my life for as long as I can remember. My dad's a big like sports statistic guy. Like if you were to ask him like who won the Super Bowl in 1972, he'll be able to tell you, and the score and the team. Like he'll know everything. So sports
I
has always
love
been
that.
my life. And yeah, a lot of people are always like surprised that like hockey was my first thing. But it felt, I guess, when I first started writing, and I was super nervous like getting into this space, because I didn't know much about it other than the fact that I love to write, and I didn't really know how like to market or to like anything like that. I was just kind of winging it, honestly. But with, I knew that I was comfortable with sports. I know a lot about hockey. So I was like, no matter what happens, I'm comfortable with what I'm writing because I'm familiar with it. And then once I kind of like got my feet underneath me and my feet wet in the industry, and I figured out like how things work and how things move, I was like, I'm not going to write sports. I'm not going to write any more hockey. Like I want to write what I initially wanted to in the first place, which is the Hollow Boys. So that's just kind of how it organically happened, I guess.
And because that was going to be my next question, do you see yourself doing more sports? But you really have found yourself like in that sort of dark romance niche now. And it's,
Yeah.
Hollow Boys is pretty much everywhere. I did a post about it the other day, and like it got a lot of traction, but it wasn't just that. It was the fact that other people were like, I loved it. I love this series. Like
Yeah.
people are really, really loving it. Do you have like a favorite part of that series, or a favorite book, or a favorite character?
I mean, first of all, just let me say that like the people loving this series has really just kind of like blown me away a bit. Like I am a bit in shock, like truthfully. I never expected like this to like happen or for this to be my life. I just kind of was like, I'm just happy. I tell people all the time that they ask a lot of like new authors will ask me like, oh, what advice do you have for like new authors or people writing a book? And I'm like, the advice I'm going to give you is not going to be the advice that has anything to do with like marketing or anything like that. It has more so to do with the writing portion of it. And it's that whatever reason you started writing in the first place, like always hold on to that. No matter what it is. It could be fame, it could be success, it could be money, it could be passion. I don't care what it is. There's no wrong answer. But whatever it is, you got to hold on to it, because you go through so many ups and downs in this like career. But if you hold on to the reason why you wanted to write in the first place, it won't be as hard. It'll be easier to get through all of like the roller coaster of emotions. And when I first started, all I ever wanted was to be able to do this like full time, regardless of like how much I made doing that. I just wanted to be able to write books for a living and call it a day. But like as of late, it's been a little bit more than that. So I've just been kind of like overwhelmed. I struggle with a little bit of imposter syndrome, but I publicly just want to say like, thank you for everybody who's ever picked up any of the Hollow Boys. Like it means so much to me. You have no idea. It makes me emotional on a daily basis. I promise you.
Oh, I love
just
that.
like crying in the corner. It's fine. But to answer your question, sorry. That was
no. It's so important. I feel like as well, there are so many people out there that love reading, that want to write. Like it's so important to hear those stories, how you got there, why, any struggles, and but it also can be life-changing. So, pick up that pen or
I'm the most like transparent person ever. I mean, I had so many people that were so kind to me when I first like started writing, that gave me so much, advice. And I think that gatekeeping is for the birds. Like, fuck that. There's so many readers out there in the world that I will, if anybody ever messages me, I'll give you every piece of information that I have in my brain to help you be successful in whatever way you choose to do so. But I think a lot of it just for me is like, I just wing it. I'm just trying to like, I kind of am like a trial and error person. Like I'll try something. If it works, I'll keep with it. If it doesn't work, we're moving away from it. Like, so I'm just like a bit of a trial and error person. And I think, I think I worked hard for where I'm at, but a lot of it is like luck and just like the right people picking it up at the right time. And I'm super grateful. But I think that if you have a passion for writing, that's like why I write, is because like I love writing. That's like it's my love. I love it with my whole heart. So if you love writing, then there should be no reason on earth why you aren't doing it. Like what's the worst that happens?
That's exactly right. What is the worst that's going to happen?
I said, what's the worst that happens? Like you write a book, it doesn't do well, and then you write another book and it does better than that book. And that's how it went for me. Like Love and Hockey did not do very well, people. Okay, like, did not do great. So, like, you write a book and it does bad. You write another book, it does better, and then you continually grow as an author and you learn things in the industry. So, if you love writing, don't let anybody tell you not to fucking do it. Like, full steam ahead. There's the worst that can happen is the first book sucks, but the second book will be better. So, that's what I'll
And
say.
And you did say before something really interesting that, the hockey series was, as you were starting out, it was something you knew, whereas in the back of your mind, maybe that darker element, that academia element had always been in the back of your mind. So how interesting that what you really, really wanted to do was the thing that took off.
Yeah, I mean, I believe, and this is just my opinion, but like I always knew I wanted to write darker romance. I just didn't know like what I was getting into in this indie space, so I didn't know what would land correctly. So I
Mm-hmm.
kind of just went with what I thought. Like sports romance is a very popular thing, and I was like, okay, we'll go. I know hockey, we'll write some sports romance, but in my heart, I always knew I wanted to write darker stuff. And I genuinely believe that if you write something that you are passionate about, it may take a bit longer. Like my journey took a little bit longer to like get where I am right now. But it may take a bit longer, but if you write something that you're passionate about, I believe that readers will feel that and they will
Yeah.
champion books that authors feel passionately about. And I believe that wholeheartedly with this community, that people will read a book and know that this author loved the story that they put inside of here. So I believe your best work is the work that you're most passionate about, and don't let anybody try to tell you any different. Unless you want to do like a different type of like unless your motivations are different. It just depends. Like if you're
Mm-hmm.
motivated by the passion of this craft, write what you're most passionate about. That'll always be better than something you're forcing. So
Yeah.
just my advice, just my opinion. Take
No,
that
and
with
I
you.
agree. And it's also like you've seen it happen in,
Yeah.
in real life for yourself. So I love that. And I love stories like that too. And with the Hollow Boys series, I'm going to bring you back because I'm cruel. I am cruel
Go
in
ahead.
the
Oh yeah,
sense that
I
I want
agree
to.
with my first initial question. It was like in my
No,
brain. I was like,
no, no. This is what I love. I love going on tangents and I love that you're there with me because this is what we want to know. We want to know, the inside out of everything. So
absolutely. You ask me whatever you want. We'll go on tangents all day. I'll be here all day on doesn't bother me.
this is going to be like a podcast marathon, everyone. We're not doing a segment. No, this
It's
is an all
so
dayer.
marathon.
Yeah.
So your initial question was Hollow. Do I have a favorite book? Right, that was like in the Hollow Boy series.
Yes. Is there anything, a particular scene, book? And I also, on that, I want to know if there are any characters that stick out for you. Do you have a favorite? I know that's hard and it's horrible, but.
It's not hard for me.
Oh,
I'm a brutal creature by nature. It's
I
not hard
love
for me.
it.
I am aware that I have favorites and I'm not afraid to say them out loud. So I think that Alistair and Briar are always going to have a special place in my heart because they were the first ones in the
Hmm.
series, right? So I love Briar and Alistair, but I think my favorite book that I wrote in the series was The Blood We Crave Part 2. There's so much of my emotional turmoil and just tears of frustration put into that book that if it wasn't my favorite of the series, I'd have a mental breakdown. But The Blood We Crave Part 2 is probably my favorite book of the series. But my favorite Hollow Boy is Silas. I
Yes.
love Silas. And my favorite Loner Society member is also Coraline.
Hmm.
Silas, honestly, he's the most like my type. And Coraline
Yes.
is the most like me. So I was like, these two are perfect. Yeah, Silas is my favorite Hollow Boy. There's something about like sweet, sad, quiet. They just
Yes.
get me every time. I love them. Sad eyes kill me. So that's my favorite Hollow Boy. But I mean, I love all the guys for like different reasons. Like Rook is a lot like me on the male side.
Hmm.
Like he is a dude with my personality. We joke about similar things. Like I find him very humorous. I love him. So I love all of them, but I think Silas takes as my favorite Hollow Boy for sure.
I'm not surprised in the sense Silas is my favorite as well. But the one thing I took away from this series was that their friendship, it was so unwavering in their love for each other like that,
Yeah.
it went past bromance. They were brothers. They
Oh
are
yeah.
brothers. It was, yeah, I really enjoyed that aspect of it because I think that's what made it so different that yes, there's loyalty in groups of, men that I've read in other books, but I really felt again, what stuck out for me was that brotherhood, that no
Yeah.
matter what, they had each other, even in those darker moments, you know, where they had to go dark for each other.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't want to be what, you know, especially with Rook, you know, what he'd do for someone else, what Alistair would do for Rook. It's
Yeah.
just, they would go that extra mile for each other.
I think that the found family trope is something that I hold near and dear to my heart. I love found family. It is like my favorite. I think having like a childhood that was filled with turmoil, all I ever really wanted was like a found family, people you choose to love. And so these boys for me were so cathartic because like regardless of what the other needed, they were there, right? So it's like
Yeah.
these guys need therapy. Let me just say that they need therapy, but that's like a novella that I write that I don't actually write later on in their life.
Yes.
So they all need therapy, and it may not have been like the healthy thing that this person needed, but like, for example, like Alistair and Brooke's relationship, I feel like is always a good example. Like Alistair needs to inflict pain and Rook needs to feel pain. So they do that for each other. And
Yes.
it's not healthy by any means, but like they will do whatever it takes to like be there for the other person. And I love that about these boys. And I mean, I love it about the girls too. Like Lyra would cut anybody for one of those three. So
Yes.
I love the found family aspect of it. I thought it was really important for the series to go the way that I wanted it to, that they had an unbreakable bond. And I think, or I hope that I did that justice.
Oh, absolutely you did. And I feel like you could sense that with the women as well, you know.
Yeah.
You really saw it in the second book where, you know, Briar, Lyra, they took Sage in, and I
Yeah.
really felt like, okay, these are people that just get it. They get
Yeah.
that friendship side of things. And I think that had probably come from seeing the guys in
Yeah.
their element, in their friendship.
I think it was inspired by like the guys and they're tight knit. Like
Yes.
they will ride. They are the definition of ride or die. Like they will
Mm-hmm.
go to the ends of the earth for one another. And the girls, it happened on page. Like so for the Hollow Boys, we knew they had a history. They had met when they were younger,
Yes.
but you didn't really see a lot of that on page. And for the girls, it was kind of like me mirroring what the beginning of the Hollow Boys looked like the boys' friendship looked like, in the way that for the second book when Sage comes back and I think like her friends or ex-friends, lack thereof, are being bitches. And Lyra and Briar, like we know Lyra especially, because she grew up in Ponderosa Springs, is like,
Yes.
trust me, girl, I know exactly what it's like to be like pushed to the shadows, you know, like you're all alone, you've lost your sister, you've just come from a like mental institution, like you're back now and you have no footing. And they're just the kind of people that I imagined, you know, like picking people up when they're down. So they were like, of course we're going to accept you into this group, whether you like it or not, you're now accepted into this group.
And I think that's exactly what Sage needed. You know, she
Yeah.
needed someone like people to be like, no, this is what's the go now. We're friends, and you come with us. And if you've got, you know, an idea in your head that's crazy, well, we'll be crazy with you.
Exactly. And Sage has never really known what like true friendship is because she's had to like fake her entire life. So she's like, I don't even know what to do in this situation, but I appreciate it nonetheless.
Well, and there's something about this series, and I'd mentioned it before, even the aesthetic, even the covers, they're so different. They're so beautiful. My partner, the one thing that we have together over reading is he's not a massive reader. And if he was to pick up something, it might be, I don't know, like a fantasy or a thriller or something. But the
Okay.
one thing he does get involved in is book covers. He'll
Okay.
always tell me, like, that's a beautiful cover, or I really like that cover. We were doing a segment the other day on one of the podcasts with your books, and he was like, wow, this series is beautiful, like really, really nice books. I'm like, yes, they are, aren't they? That's just our thing. Like it's book covers.
Yeah.
So
I love that bond. I love that. I think that it's such a unique way to like bond with your partner, like who may not read the same thing as you do, but it's like a unique thing to bond you to. I love it.
he is. He's great with it. Where did that aesthetic come from? Had you always known? Because I've even been on your website, and oh my goodness, I could stay on that webpage for days. There's just something about it. Has that always been your niche? Like or did this, you know, have you had, I guess, artists write up something for you? How did it all go?
So, I mean, I have to give every single ounce of credit to Cassie, who owns Opulent Designs. She's the
Uh-huh.
one who made the covers. Cassie is an extremely talented cover designer and just artist in general, and also an author if you're looking for other dark romance.
Okay.
She writes under C.L. Matthews, incredible dark romance. But Cassie's incredible, and I had booked with her because I knew I was doing like a dark romance vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And she does dark romance incredible. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna book with Cassie. And one day I was like on her. I'm actually very bad at expressing to cover designers what it is that I want. Like I'm really bad at it actually. Because like I know what I see in my head, but sometimes like communicating that doesn't always like translate the right
Yeah.
way. So I was on Cassie's pre-mades on in Opulent Designs, and I found the Lies We Steal under a pre-made. It's actually called like it was like called like Dead Man's Chest, I think. So it
Mm-hmm.
was a pre-made, and I was like, this is exactly what I want for the Hollow Boy series. Like I want it to be like dark and like dark academia, but not like
Mm-hmm.
too on the nose. Like I didn't
No.
want it to be like super like everything that happens in the book is on the cover kind of thing. I didn't
Yes.
want it to be super on the nose. And I was like, this is the cover. This is it. This is what I want for the Lies We Steal. And from there, we just kind of, I figured out what colors I wanted to go for each book. And then we picked particular element from each of the boys or each of the Loner Society members and went from there and kind of mirrored them in the same vein. So all credit in the world to Cassie because she's the one who got it there. I think I've always liked having like a darker aesthetic though.
Mm-hmm.
And then for like my branding and like my new like my branding and stuff like that, that's new branding because I wanted to like take a second to really like figure out what I wanted myself to like be
Mm-hmm.
presented as because I wanted it to look like me, but I also needed to look like what I write too.
Sure.
So I had an incredible friend of mine who shall not be named because they don't want people to know that they made it.
Fair enough.
A friend that shall not be named who I love so much that actually did my branding and my colors. Like we worked together because like the colors on my website, those are my like my favorite colors. Like I
Mm-hmm.
love dark green. I love like that vibe. And I really just told her I was like I wanted to look like Stephen King but like smutty. Like that's
Yeah.
what I want my
Funny
branding to
Stephen
look like.
King.
That's what I want it to look like. Please, can we do that? And she knocked it out of the park. So I've actually just now reached a point of like being happy with like the aesthetic that I have and like putting it out like on the internet and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like came along kind of organically, but I'm really glad that it's translating because I love
Oh,
my branding.
I absolutely. I'm obsessed with it. Like it's something that, and personally as a
Also, thank you
reader,
so much for loving my website. I did that all by myself. Thank you.
I was on it all day. Actually, no, for
Thank
2 days because I kept going back to it. I was like, I just love, like, it was just so, I don't know what it was about it, but it just felt really comfortable in that dark, smutty, like you
thank
say, like it was very cool. I really liked it. And for anyone who hasn't checked it out, absolutely do. You will learn some tidbits about Monty that you didn't know. I mean, Leo,
I am a
kind of,
Leo.
that's kind of coming out now. I'm kind of like, okay, that makes a little bit of sense.
I'm a Leo. I'm a Leo through and actually I'm a Leo sun, Leo rising, and a Virgo moon. So I'm actually a double Leo. So I'm very extroverted with introvert tendencies. But I know that like projecting wise, like if I wasn't talking, people are like, I don't think that you are. And I'm like, I assure you, I absolutely am. I promise. So yes, I
Just
am a Leo.
spend 10 minutes with me and we've got there. You're a peppermint tea drinker. I am too, actually. But I thought that was really fun that you gave little pieces of yourself that we wouldn't know.
Yeah, I wanna I it's really important to me because I think that social media can be incredible, but it can also like be a bit dehumanizing because you're like
Mm-hmm.
seeing people on a screen and not like face to face. And there are like you can like read people's vibes face to face. You can like read
Yes.
their facial expressions and their movements that you can't really do on social media. So I think social media can like dehumanize people. And I think something that's always been like really very important to me from like the very beginning was that I just wanted to be like authentically myself and
Yeah.
as come across as like authentic as possible. So like if
Yes.
I have a flat tire on the side of the road, you're probably going to know about it because like
Yeah.
it's real life stuff, that people like
Yes.
relate to. And if I have like bad mental health days, I don't mind like publicly speaking about that because
Mm-hmm.
we all do. So I just wanted to kind of be like authentically MJ. And that's always been something that's really important to me, is just making sure that people know that I'm like, what you see, like how I act on the internet is how I act every single day of my life.
No,
There's
I
nothing about
love
me.
it. And it's so funny because, like, you know, this is the first time we're meeting like this way, but
Yeah.
you are like full of energy. Like what you see is what you get, and that translates on the TikTok videos I've seen too. So no, you're definitely doing yourself justice.
So I mean, I wanted to like just give people like tidbit. I mean, I want people to know as much about me as possible, like that, you know, like we're, I don't want to say like friends, because I mean, I can't be friends with like every single person that I
No.
ever come across, but like I guess like I just want people to like read these things and like know these things about me and know that like
Mm-hmm.
I'm literally not any different than you. Like
Yeah.
I write these books, but like I also do just like regular day-to-day things. I go to the mail, I take naps in the middle of the day, I play Call of Duty, I drink peppermint tea, I'm a Leo. Like I just don't want to ever feel like people think that I am, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but to like, I don't know, just like I don't like othered. Like I want to be
Yes.
like relatable. Like I want people to know that like I genuinely am like no different than you as a reader. Like
Mm-hmm.
I fangirl over my own stuff. Like I will fangirl over like theories that people post. Like
Mm-hmm.
when I see edits that people do, or like people will post theories, which has happened a lot because like the next so like people are like, these two people are ending up together. I know it. And I know that like some people may be like, oh no, like they may get like annoyed or be like, that's actually not what's happening. I love that because like me and my friends who get involved in series that we love, we're like, these two people have to end up together no matter what. Like I get invested. I relate to you. Like I know exactly what you're feeling. And the fact that you feel that about my books is like, it'll be a feeling I can never express to anybody, but it's so overwhelmingly grateful for it, honestly.
Oh,
So
I
like, yeah,
love that.
just like you guys, promise.
And, you know, brilliant segue because before I let you go, you know, I'll get witch hunted if I don't bring up next gen. I will,
Oh, yeah,
because it's been, you know, River Styx Heathens. It's been on my mind. It's been on my mind a lot since, you know, the end of the series and, you know, who's going to end up with who. And you
yeah,
did a great TikTok the other day of the kids, who they belong to, and,
yeah.
and not necessarily where it's going. So is there anything particularly you can tell us, or even about the first book, like what can, before you go, before I let you go,
You're
what
good.
is the tidbits you could give us?
So let me also just say that in the front of every single one of the next gen books, there's a family tree. So
Nice.
like that was coming out no matter what, guys. But like there were so many people asking questions. I was like, let me just make this TikTok video with my whiteboard, like I'm a teacher, so that
I
everybody
loved it.
but there will be a family tree in the beginning of every single book of the next gen, so you'll know who goes to where. But what can I tell you about the River Styx Heathens? I can tell you that Wrath of an Exile is like I would definitely think about maybe like purchasing like tissues like
Oh
prior
God.
to reading. It is very emotionally, it's very
Okay.
charged. It is dark. I wouldn't say like the same kind of dark that the Hollow Boys are. Like they're like
Mm-hmm.
murder mystery, hunting people down, like out of here.
Yeah.
And it's not dark like that. Like nobody's hunting anybody down, but there is definitely like dark, like there's death. People die. So it's dark. It's Wrath of an Exile is so angsty and just so like push and pull. I missed writing enemies to lovers. They are enemies to lovers. There's a forbidden trope. They're foster siblings of
Mm-hmm.
sorts. So that means that Jude has to live with Fee, so there's like forced proximity. There is a huge found family trope, especially for like the Jude, like coming into the Van Doren house.
Yeah.
And I know the amount of people who are like, I cannot believe that you're gonna make me write a Sinclair. You're gonna make me like a Sinclair. And I would be like, yes, I am. And he's actually, I think, gonna be one of you guys' favorites because I love this man. I love Jude Sinclair so much. He's a poet. He's like a secret lover boy. He's like a hopeless romantic at heart. I love him with my whole heart. And then like I guess like something I could tell. I want to give you like a tidbit so that you could be like, oh, guess what I found out on my. What can I tell you? I could tell you that I already told people there's going to be an MM in the
Mm-hmm.
series, so there'll be an MM book. But the next book in the series will be Whisper of a Shadow. That's
Uh-huh.
book 2, and it will be about Ezra Caldwell and Andromeda Van Doren. So those are the 2 Hollow Boy
Mm-hmm.
children that end up together. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, and then
Oh my goodness.
after that, you guys, oh, there's a teacher student trope later in the series. I told somebody that the other day, so might
I'm
as
gonna
well just.
pass out.
There's teacher student trope later on. I'm very excited about that one. This series is like filled with all kinds of stuff that I haven't wrote yet. I did
Mm-hmm.
like Mirrors of Convenience, but there's in this one there's fake dating. Like throughout the whole series, not just the
Yeah.
next book, there's fake dating, teacher student, foster sibling, enemies to lovers, which I've already done. Childhood friends to lovers is in there. I think there's like other stuff, but I can't really remember. Oh, MM, which isn't a trope, but it's a genre. So
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
so,
MM is one of my favorites. So I am so excited to hear that because there's something about an MM that just grabs me. It really always.
I love them. I love MM. It's like they're like one of my favorite relationship dynamics to read about.
Mm-hmm.
Love them with my whole chest. So I'm excited to write one for the first time. And yeah, so I think that's it's gonna be fun. It's a wild ride. It's gonna be painful. I bring tissues for sure.
I'm
I've
so
tried
excited for
multiple
you.
times already.
I'm so excited to read. I'm so excited for you. And I cannot congratulate you enough on the success that you're getting. It is so well deserved.
Oh,
And the world building that you've done already, I can't wait for more. You know, as readers, we can be selfish. You know, you're like, I've just given you a book and we're like, yep, finished. Next.
next one. Done with it.
Thank
2
you. Next.
Yeah, you finish it. I think it's the funniest thing ever. I'll finish a book that I've been working on for like 6-7 months, and then like I release it 2 hours later. Somebody's in my DMs, when's the next book out? And I'm like, it took 2 hours for something
I'm
out
like
for six
sweating,
months.
you're crying, like you're trying to like let go and enjoy
Yeah,
them. And then like, okay, so when so and so's book? Because like you said, we were talking about it before. We come up with our own theories and we get so immersed in it as well. Like we're
yeah.
sure. And then you're like, if you're sat there going, they don't get a book, how's that gonna end? Like
I
that
the way in which that I'll see things. I think I saw one the other day. It was like and mind you, when I say this, I love these theories. Like keep them coming. Like make as many theories as you want to. Make them as off the wall as you want. I don't care. I love it. I love the energy. It's fine. But I think I saw one the other day that was like I think it was like Rain Van Doren and Atlas Caldwell was like the MM, and they were like, "Please feed our delusion, AJ." And I was like, "I'm not feeding anything. I'm not saying a word."
but it's
So
so funny.
I love it. I love how invested people get, and I think that it's beautiful. I think my biggest thing that I'll tell you going into the River Styx Heathens is like I would whatever theories you may have, totally hold on to those, enjoy them, have fun with them.
Hmm.
But when you open the book, I would probably like drop your expectations because there are things like in this series that are going to be like different than what I think people are expecting. So be aware of like changes.
Be prepared. Bring
Be
tissues,
prepared.
bring just anything that you need to get through,
Oh, the
basically.
spice level in this series is up too. So I'm just like trying to match
Okay.
my spice to darkness. I think with the Hollow
Uh-huh.
Boys, having so much fun with the dark. And I'm not one to write like spice for spice sake. I really like to
Yes.
like like strategically. But this one, spice for spice sake, is not. It's like strategically they need to be more spicy. So
Yes.
I would be prepared for that also.
Oh, what a shame. That sounds terrible.
Oh no, no, not
Oh,
more
well,
spice.
guys, you heard it here first.
Not more spice. Oh my gosh.
I think we'll be fine. I think we'll all be fine with that. And I think I'm still reeling, like my mind, the clock is ticking over of the tropes you've already given. So I'm like, okay, I've written them down.
Yeah, I'm ready
I'll
to
get
go.
back to those later. I'm going to take this offline to see if I can get any more information out of you. But I just want to say thank you so much for being on the podcast. When you said that you were happy to be on it, honestly, I was just a little bit starstruck. So thank you so much for
Oh,
being on and giving your time. It's really appreciated.
oh my God. Anytime. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I love doing this kind of stuff. So anytime you need anything regarding your podcast, you just let me know and I will be here with bells on.
I love it. Thank you so much.
No problem.
I am so obsessed with Monty Jay and their vibe. Coolest person on the planet. And if you haven't read The Hollow Boys yet, I could not recommend something more, honestly. And the first thing I will be doing is adding the Fury series to my TBR. Hockey romance. It's more obviously the sports. If I loved Hollow Boys, I know I'm going to love this. So that is on my TBR for this coming week. I cannot wait. And now these are the books that you need to be aware of. So we've got This Is War by Meghan Quinn. It's out now. I'm hearing amazing things about it. It's added to my TBR. I just need to get to it. Obviously, Caged by Luna Mason, out on the 27th. So should either, if it's not out right now, it's going to be out in the next day or two. Run, don't walk. Check your trigger warnings. But my God, I loved it so much. I'm loving this series, Beneath the Secrets. I adore Luna Mason. I would read her grocery list at this point. Reckless by Lauren Roberts is out. I still need to read Powerless. I also have tried to add that to this week, but the amount of times I keep doing that, I need to get over myself. It's not happening right now. I will. It will happen, I promise. But again, I'm not going to give too much because it can be overwhelming. And there are many, many bangers coming out for July. So I will see you next episode. Thank you so much for listening. And as always, I'll bring you the tea next week.